Governor Andrew Cuomo has interesting ideas about how he'd rank the worst tragedies to hit New York during his life. So he was talking about Amazon deciding not to set up their next headquarters thanks to grassroots activism against it. And he said, "What happened is the greatest tragedy that I have seen since I have been in government. And I know that there's gotta be a worse one, but I just can't think of anything." So what do you guys think? Is there anything worse that's happened in New York in the past couple decades?
Well, my thought is, how does he define being in government? Because maybe he has a different definition that has nothing to do with the September date.
Maybe.
Exactly.
Maybe.
He has a Cuomo though, so I'm gonna count most of his adult life.
The second biggest recession in American history also happened relatively recently.
Yep.
Could have, yeah.
There have been terror scares. There's been you had the Great Recession. You had Hurricane Sandy. You had the subway system. Take a ride. That's a pretty big tragedy. Someone on Twitter pointed out Pizza Rat. That was an embarrassment. There's been a lot of issues in New York. So how tone deaf do you need to be to imply that one company deciding not to go there, which yes would probably bring certain economic benefits, but also, there were valid concerns that it would drive people out of housing that is already virtually impossible. You'd have so many problems, and they're not even being acknowledged. And that's what's so, they want to pretend that it's just AOC's in DC and she complains about it, and so it didn't happen. But that's not the case. There were grassroots activists inside of New York who were saying, we have already been fighting exactly the sort of economic exploitation that comes as a result of massive corporations like this. And so, yeah, to not even acknowledge the arguments on the other side is that's disheartening.
Yeah, and also just to see the fact that a loss of whatever income would have been generated, even though just because of Amazon and their tax structure, how much the New York revenue really could have been generated there for them. It's still one of those things of Amazon would have changed the characteristics of that community. And to be able to hold on to that, especially when we see mass gentrification or regentrification and these changes that are made and how they change the entire landscape and they do displace people in their homes. And I believe that those New Yorkers had a right to say, we'll pass, thanks.
Exactly.
Go elsewhere. That's perfectly fine. Find a place where they welcome you and they want you, because it's not there.
And for those 25,000 jobs, who would those jobs have been for? Those jobs would have been high-skilled, high-position jobs that, like how you said, would have further gentrified the area. And also, he made comments that said the state legislatures who were against this move have to now worry about their next election. And it's just why are you really so mad? It's definitely not a reflection of everyday, regular, average people and the opportunities they would have missed out. It has to do with really, really rich people being upset. Full stop, the end. And for you to be whining and complaining, it just shows a reflection of who you serve and who you don't serve.
Because he would have stood to benefit, I'm sure, in some kind of financial
capacity. If he would have stepped
capacity
on this and be like, no, we're not doing this. And in regards to Amazon for the second year in a row paying $0 in federal income tax. It's like, how does that even happen? $3 billion in subsidies to move to this area, that's only gonna drive people out of it. So, who's really losing? Amazon didn't even take a loss.
Thank you.
They didn't even take a loss.
They don't seem to care that much.
They didn't. They basically saw, we can't do this exactly how we wanna do it, so bye.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the things that they were doing in anticipation of the thought that Amazon would be there? The deals maybe Cuomo was probably setting up, or the opportunities, because we'd have more residential housing, or setting up this condo here, or maybe you can do this with the land structure. And it's kind of like, it messed up his pocket now that Amazon's not there, but did it really do anything for the people, even if Amazon would have been there? Yeah,
and I think about look, it would require more investigation. The deal didn't even go through, so I'm not implying direct financial transactions, but a couple of weeks ago, Representative Ocasio-Cortez was doing this corruption game that went viral, talking about all of the ways that it's extremely easy to provide benefits not only for your political donors, but also for yourself. And take a look at this situation. Hypothetically, he gets to take billions of dollars and give it to a corporation, and they in turn can give him money for his next election. That wasn't his money, those billions of dollars. And it wasn't some hypothetical thing. It was concrete money being transferred to an individual corporation. So there was certainly a political corruption and money in politics element to this. And more importantly than just this one company with this one headquarters in this one city, I feel, do we want to live in a country where big corporations get to pit every city against each other to see how much we're willing to flagellate ourselves to get them to come, and how much of our resources are we to give? How many decades of tax-free status are we gonna provide? Like, I like to think that these areas, they have something to offer, that the company should want to go there. They shouldn't have to be paid off in this way. And I think that if we can derail a few of these deals, maybe we can start to change that process.
And it's funny that you bring that up, in part because that's exactly what happens in sports. We see that with Olympic committees, but also with teams when they're moving to cities. Well, what can you offer me? And it's never to the benefit of the people. And we kind of saw that when the Rams left St. Louis and pretty much the debt that they put them in. And I do have someone from St. Louis next to me, and he may chime in, but it is one of those things where it's not for the benefit of the people. If anything, it's to their detriment at the end of the day.
And that really, and St. Louis doesn't have a particularly thriving economy for entertainment. And so I remember when the Rams left St. Louis, I called up everybody. I was like, I was already planning to move, but I was like, y'all gotta go. And it's because how much economic activity you took away from the city just so you could go to a place and make more money, which again makes business sense. But again, like, there's no incentive for them to come anywhere and actually help out people in those communities. Now we just have an empty stadium in St. Louis. And that, even less people are gonna come to the city now because, what else is there to go see? Maybe the Cardinals, but other than that, people aren't going there. So, they brought the team to LA. Makes sense business-wise, but LA didn't need that. You know what I'm saying? So, and then not only that, they left St. Louis, came to LA, and just were in the Super Bowl. So,
I'm sorry, I started that. I'm sorry, my bad.
Let's talk about the Super Bowl. No, so we're not gonna do that. But yeah, and I think like if you want to attract companies to come, like, okay, do something about the price of housing in your area. Do something about the public transportation. Make it appealing in non-payoff terms for them to be there. And maybe if you do that, and if maybe we listen to some of the Democratic socialists who want workers to have more control over the fates of their companies, maybe it would be better to not have just 1 to 9 people choosing where Amazon is gonna put their next thing, where they can just look at a number on a line and say, we're gonna be paid $3 billion, so we're gonna go there. Have the workers, the people who are actually going to be working in that location, have some input as well. Would that really be such a bad thing, either for New York or for Amazon? I don't think so.
It'd be great for long-term gain.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're actually providing value for the regular people of that place, then you're boosting the economy. Like you're actually providing the value that you're supposed to be. Whereas if you're just focused, so much of American business culture is focused on short-term gain. How can we make the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time? And that usually ends up in disaster because usually you have to do, basically criminal activity that's legal in order to do it. So, it's just a reflection of the culture that we live in.
Oh, completely unethical. Yeah.
God, the whole national conversation we're having right now is so bizarre that like he can just offer, we're gonna give you billions of dollars and hopefully that'll provide some jobs. But when people are like, hey, maybe we could tax like the wealthy to provide jobs to fulfill the that doesn't make sense. Wait, but you're giving our tax dollars to a corporation. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, okay, thankfully we have high-profile politicians who are starting to question some of this orthodoxy. That is a good thing, hopefully it will continue. And with that, why don't we turn to some more political corruption, this time in the even more obvious category.
On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.